tests.
It's also a place where you can get out of the warm tropical sun, watch a movie, and grab something cold to drink. I think I've finally found the way to the staterooms. Follow me. Now this looks like stateroom country, and I'd be willing to bet that behind this door is the coziest, most comfortable spot on this entire boat. Whoa! I'll try this one. Now this is more like it. And according to Scotty in the office, each room is fully air-conditioned, so sleeping in the tropics doesn't pose a problem. As you can see, each bunk has plenty of room and its own reading lamp, so you won't disturb your roommate, as well as its own wash basin. Now that we're sure we'll be comfortable, let's ask Frank LaPresti a few last-minute questions before we book our trip. Frank, you know, ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to take a long-range trip, but 10 days on a boat, that sounds like a long time.
Good question, Willie, but whenever we return from one of these 9, 10, or 11-day trips, I can count on most of the people telling me, you know, Frank, the biggest problem with your trip is it's too short. And it kind of comes down to that deal that when you're having a ball, time flies.
Where do you fish on a long-range trip? How far do you go?
Willie, we always go south. On a 9, 10, 11-day trip, which are probably some of our more popular trips, we generally start out at an island called Cedros Island. That's 310 miles south of San Diego. From there, we continue south, and one of the alternatives would be from there to go to Alejos Rocks, which is 160 miles from the closest point of land, and it's just 3 rocks that stick out of the water in the middle of nowhere. From there, we'll go on down the Baja coast, probably as far as Potato Bank, below Magdalena Bay, and then we'll start working up to Thetis Bank, the 23-fathom bank. They're really rich areas in game fish. From there to Uncle Sam, the 13-fathom spot. Then again, we cut back into the coast again and work our way home, generally fishing just about every day. We'll end up at Abrieos, Hipólito, Ascension, San Pablo. We'll fish up that way, travel all night. The next day, we'll probably end up fishing around Canoas. The next morning, you're going to be in San Diego.
Which brings me to another concern, Frank. With fish that are capable of ripping hundreds of yards of line off the reel, 50-mile-an-hour wahoo, and black sea bass that weigh over 250 pounds, will I be able to handle it?
Willie, I don't think that's going to be much of a problem. You know, we have some people that fish with us that, let me just give you a few examples. My son started fishing with me on these long trips when he was 5. At age 10, he caught a yellowfin tuna at Roca Partida on a 16-day trip that was 157 pounds. Took him an hour and a half, but he did manage to get it. Now, he probably wouldn't have got it if it wasn't for the good tackle that we have today.